Hello, everyone. This is Samantha-Jayne Love, and today on Love Talk, oh my goodness, what a day. Today is Rainbow Baby Day, 22nd of August. Today's going to be filled with a lot of emotion today. So I have a beautiful panel of beautiful women who have gone through all different variances of loss. When it comes to having a baby or just the loss of it. And we're going to share a bit of our stories and bring in a bit of hope for people that have just gone through loss or have gone through loss and not known how to move that pain that's in their body. I'm calling it's an eternal moment that you have with that little child, because we love them unconditionally when they're there. And we're like, oh my God, wow, what's going on? The miracle of life is happening right now. And then for one reason or another, we may lose them. So I'm going to introduce my panel. If everyone would like, I might just get everyone one at a time, and I'm just going to go around my screen. So my first panelist is Christy. Hi, Christy. Can I
Here we go.
There we go.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good, my darling. Thank you very much for coming on. Would you like to share a little bit about your story?
My story, I have to say, firstly, I'm just the being invited to speak on this panel with you and everybody else today has helped me in my story still, even though I was 18 when it originally happened. So the one time that I have known at the moment, I can't say it was the moment of conception, but after intercourse that I was pregnant or going to have a baby. I then 4 weeks later miscarried. So it was something that obviously wasn't medically tested or validated in the first instance, and it was all intuitive. So, but having said that, I just knew in my guts, as I knew many other things throughout my life to that time, that it was so and that I could trust it. So my struggle with that has been around accepting and being able to, I guess, grieving the loss of that. Initially, it was very difficult because I didn't feel like I could share it with people, because it's hard to say to people, this is what I intuitively know and this is what I've seen in my body, and the doctor hasn't said so. So it became a grief that I carried for quite a few years, and just got kind of shoved away. And I think, so separate to that, I guess coming forward to the present time, I, as an adult, have wanted to be pregnant and wanted children and just have never been pregnant since. I was a nurse for 8 years, and things that I saw through my nursing have shown me that it's possible that I had multiple miscarriages as a teen.
Yeah.
I was rebellious and I was promiscuous and out there and just not a happy child. So
yeah,
I think, that's quite impactful for me now, because it's, something that I guess another loss because of a loss that I couldn't support myself in as a younger person. That's my bit.
Thank you for sharing.
My pleasure.
Okay, where are we? Okay, so bringing that up, so they say that in papers that it's 1 in 5 or 20% of pregnancies will become a rainbow baby within the first 7 weeks, and then the percentages go down from there. But these are ones that have actually been screened, or someone has, gone to the doctor and actually gone, yes, you're pregnant. No, you're not. We've done all the blood counts and all of the things, and they've said that they are pregnant. But before doctors came along, there was the birthing women that would say, yes, you're pregnant, no, you're not pregnant, and talk in with the mother, and she would connect in with the child that was in her. So we've been doing this for some time now. I have read some things that it's as many as 1 in 3 pregnancies that can happen. So there's a conception and the egg for some reason decides that it's not in a good space, or whatever the reason that it decides to then move on. So I will share now that I've composed myself a little bit about my journey. I am wearing rainbows at the moment because I have had many, 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 many little souls that love to come and sit in my oven for a little time. And there's quite a thing, because even asking who would like to come on this panel, some women said, oh, I've only had one. I've only had one. It doesn't really make any sense for me to come on. It's just one. And when someone puts that word just in front of it, it sort of diminishes what your body is going through. Every time that there is a pregnancy, your body will go through all of the post-pregnancy hormones as well. I reckon I could count a good 10 or 11, if not more. And the one that probably broke me the most mentally was when we were on hormone tablets. I was crazy. I was a crazy mofo, because that stuff does not do well with you. I literally tried to kill my husband with a knife, and he was like, nah, this is not happening again, because we were doing tests. It was very clinical. There was very, do this on this time, right now, come on, take this tablet, da, 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 da. And I went and had my blood test, and I was pregnant. And I knew in my body that I'd been pregnant before, but I'd never seen the positive. So I was all in. And then 2.5 weeks later, I was all out. And I was a freaking mess. It was like all of the other pregnancies, and I just felt like a complete failure. It was my fault. I was too stressed. All of these things came up for me, and I did literally almost lose it. I almost killed myself because I felt such a failure. And my husband almost left me because he was like, fucking, who is this crazy person? I was on the floor in real fetal wailing, and I was wailing and wailing. And he was like, I don't know what to do with this. And the doctor was like, it's all right. We'll just go again. So we went again. We did the test, and I was negative. And he at this stage said, no, this is it. So I thought, oh, okay, that's the end of it for me. We were in Sydney at that time, and then we moved again. And, life went on a little bit more, and I was like, okay, maybe I can try again. And they decided that they would do all of this research in my tummy. So they did the big thing where they blow my stomach up, and they found a dodgy fallopian tube. So they took my fallopian tube out, and I was ready to go on more hormones. He was like, you can try it once. That's it. That's you go. You can try it once. And then I'm sitting in this nurse's room, and the nurse is like, all right, so you have to grab your skin like this, and you grab this injection pen and you chuck it into your stomach. And I'm like, I hate needles. Okay, this is great. How much do I want a baby? And my stepdaughter at the time had run away. Well, she didn't run away. She just decided that she didn't want to tell me where she was. She was 14 in the city. Her dad was away. her mum's calling me, everyone's calling me, and she was not answering my phone. And I've just gone into, oh my God, I've lost this child. Oh my God, she's in the city. What's happened to her? It was dark. So I was still livid about that. And I've gone into this nurse's office, and the nurse is going, yeah, this, I'm like, oh, this is all too much. Like, maybe I just pulled the pin. He's like, when was your last period? I'm like, I don't know. Looked at my app, bless apps. Otherwise, because I always forget to write when. And he's like, maybe we'll just do a test. And this nurse had a very warped sense of humor. So at this stage, I was pregnant with my baby, 90 days pregnant. Oh my God. But when he rang me up, he was like, did you just come and have a test? And I'm like, yeah, what have you been smoking at lunchtime? Oh my God, what is going on right now? It was like that weird sort of, am I in a dream right now? And then he said, you are really, 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 really pregnant. I'm like, what? I literally had to ask him 3 times because I did not believe it. It was that whole, but then the stress started happening. So I had a lot of stress through my pregnancy. So I have a few things to help my darling with now in regards to it, because I was so worried that I was going to lose her. So I had this whole 9 months. Well, it wasn't 9 months, it was another 6 months of, oh my God, oh my God. So the birthing process was quite stressful as well, because I hemorrhaged a lot. She wasn't breathing. She pooped inside of me. Very glamorous, not at all. But I have this beautiful, beautiful angel now. And then her sister came along. So they do say that once you have a rainbow baby, then you have a golden child. So that is my story. And this is the ring. I don't know whether everyone can see it. So I bought myself, where is my camera? So that miscarriage that really burnt me, that really, out of all of them, this was the ring that I bought to help heal myself afterwards. I also had a miscarriage when Mick Jagger and when he was in town. I was working for a security company. We were getting ready for Mick Jagger, and then his girlfriend decided that she didn't want to be on the plane anymore. And I'm going through a miscarriage at the same time. Very traumatic as well. Yes. So that's enough of my story. I'm going to hand it over so I can compose myself again. Corinne, would you like to share your story? I just need to find you and unmute you. There.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, my darling.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me here. And yeah, it's been a fair long while because I've got 2 beautiful children now. My daughter is 17 and I've got a son that's 12. But before all of that, before I had my daughter, I think it was roughly about 4 or 5 weeks, but I'd had a test to say that I was pregnant. So that was the first time, that we,
Yeah.
that it was all happening, and it was very exciting. Then I know where we were because we went away for our wedding anniversary, and it was at that time that we were away, and we knew that we were pregnant, and it was all very new and fresh and exciting. And then it must have been sort of on that weekend, on the Saturday, that I realised that it was that I'd miscarried. It was just more like a heavy period, but it was it was more than that. It was, you start to have these feelings and wondering of whether you're going to be able to have children again. And because it's not spoken about, people don't talk about it, and it's like you just get on with life without really just doing any research. I mean, back then I didn't Google. I don't know. There was no Googling then or anything like that. It was, I spoke to my mum about it, and she was sort of didn't really understand what was going on. She didn't know of that because she'd fallen quite easily with my sister and I. But so how long after that? So it must have been a couple of years, and then, you know, we fell pregnant with Lorelei, and that was beautiful. It was such a beautiful pregnancy. I loved every minute except for the first. Oh, I just felt sick all the time. That was yucky, really.
Yeah.
It was like a hangover, continuous all the time. So,
Yeah.
but a beautiful, gorgeous girl came along and changed our lives forever. And then it was because, you know, a lot of people sort of say, oh, you know, there's quite a gap between your daughter and your son. And, you know, you just always are diplomatic. It's as though you don't want to hurt other people's feelings in saying, well, this is what's happened in that time. So we had, I miscarried. I was 8 weeks.
Yep.
That was when my grandfather had passed away. My mum had gone away and back over to France for his funeral, and I felt really alone then when that happened, because my sister had gone away as well, so I couldn't really even speak to my mum or my sister that I'm super close with. And so, yeah, that was sort of a bit of a blur. Then I had another one. I was 12 weeks, and that was a doozy. That was really hard, really tough. And yeah, that was the one. I went to hospital for that one. I was in so much pain.
Yep.
It felt like contractions.
Yeah.
It was just really awful. And when we got there, I was telling my husband that, you know, I didn't want to have to go through this again. Let's just have the one. We've got one, and we'll just stick to that. But he was really supportive. You know, he was my rock, that's for sure. And yeah, it was. You still always have that thing in the back of your mind that, you know, that obviously something was wrong. But one person, I don't want to sort of name names because then they may be watching this after, but they were trying to make me feel better, and they were telling me about somebody that had an AFL player, and his wife had like 11 or 13 between, you know, they had quite a lot of children, but they had like 13 miscarriages before their next one. And they're telling me this, and I'm thinking, there is no way that I'm going to go through 13 more to have another one. But we did. We tried again, and we have a beautiful boy, Robert, and I couldn't ask for any better children. They're just amazing, and I'm very, very grateful. And I know that needed to happen for me to be, but, you know, more compassionate towards others. You know, when people, you know, you see in magazines, people They, you see a little pot belly and they go, oh, that famous person, they must be pregnant, or, it must be really hard, when people ask, oh, so when are you going to start a family and things like that? And you just don't know how much of an impact that question is to the person that you're asking. And I know that that's actually really helped me to be more understanding of what other people are going through, no matter whether they've lost or, a different array of conceiving and all of those sort of things. And so, yeah. And yes, I bought this when I was about 18. I don't actually really know what it is, but it looks like there's like a little person in there. It actually looks a little bit like a womb.
A womb. Yeah.
But it also has the other side. So sometimes,
Oh yeah, right. It's one of the
it's magnetic inside.
Yeah, cool. Awesome.
Yeah, so that's what I wear.
Beautiful.
And that reminds me.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Corinne.
Thank you.
And then we might come to Sherry. Beautiful Sherry. I think you need to unmute yourself, darling. It won't let me. I'll wait.
Sure. Cherie, how are you?
Oh, Sherry. Yeah. Hi, darling. So your story is a little bit different. Yours is one of stillborn, isn't it, my darling?
Yep, I have an angel baby, as we all do. So I was actually told that I couldn't, as a teen, I was told that I probably wouldn't be able to have children. And so we started on the road of, I met someone when I was about 27 and about 100 years ago. And it seems like. And so we started on fertility treatment. Christy, I heard you. I heard you. That's all I wanted. That was my destiny, like change the world and all that stuff, but to be a mama, And so we started, and it took us nearly 3 years. And we did all the stuff, operations and medications. And I can relate to what you said, Samantha, because our first two were at 9 weeks that they decided to go and be in heaven. And then we discovered this Chinese doctor, and finally seeing my whole life I'd waited those 2 lines on that test. And I actually rang my best friend and I went, 2 lines means negative, right? I'd had about 100 tests. I knew very well, but my brain couldn't compute it, And so we had this beautiful little girl, Charlotte, and then exactly 22 months later, I had my beautiful little boy, Bailey. And then we decided to move from Melbourne to Perth, and there was going to be a 22-month gap between Bailey and my third child. So we moved to Perth, and it was just an absolutely horrible experience. We got here, our house was robbed, didn't know the areas, so moved to the wrong area, and had all this stuff going on, had no one around me that I knew. And because everything had been perfect with the first two children, I mean, it was just dreamy. When I went and had my tests at 12 or so weeks, I didn't go back for the results. But when our house was robbed, I went to go and get, in my old lifetime, antidepressants before I obviously did hypnosis and NLP and whatever. I deal with that myself now. But so I went, and she said, oh, by the way, we think your child has spina bifida or Down syndrome. And I laughed, because any soul that came to me was fine, which was actually quite naive. But that's okay. And so we had to go, they organised an amnio for me. And so they do an ultrasound first, and my heart is racing. And to find out where to put the needle to put it in to test for Downs and whatever. I actually wasn't even going to go for the test, but thank goodness I did. And more people kept coming into the room, and I'm thinking, what is going on? And like, my husband's to my left. I'm so grateful for him at the time. And I'm like one of those people, the more and more uncomfortable I get, the more inappropriate I get. So I'm telling the nurses all these jokes, and they're kind of like trying to talk in between themselves, and I'm trying to interrupt them. And then the main sonographer came to the end of the table, and she said, I'm sorry to tell you this, Sheree, but your child has died. And I was 22 weeks. Woo, I have healed.
Just take a moment if you need it, darling.
I'm great.
Okay.
So my whole body convulsed up off the table, and I just couldn't breathe, and everything went black, and my life continued in blackness for about 3 years. I didn't have the skills that I have now. Yeah. And gosh, what a gift that would have been. So I had 2 little children, between 2 and 3, had no support, and I had all this stuff happening. And so they sent a psychologist around, like they do check-ins. Perth's medical system is amazing.
Yeah.
And, I missed a part. So I went and gave birth to him. Yeah. And at first I wasn't going to see him. They'd taken him to the morgue. And then when they brought him, my husband wanted to see him. So they brought him up, and he was just gorgeous. He was all swollen and whatever. And then there's so much technical stuff, like they have to, do you want an autopsy? Do you want him to be buried? Do you want to be cremated? It was huge, and none of these decisions I could make. And I'm so grateful that my husband was there at the time, and unfortunately, it was the breaking of us, because they say women cry and men sigh.
Yeah.
And so that was definitely the case for me. For me, this was the most traumatic thing that I'm a bit of a windmill parent, and for me to have a child that wasn't with me, it was horrific, absolutely horrific. Like, who's got my baby now? And there's been a couple of instances that were incredibly healing. I'm a medium, and so I'm so blessed, because at first my son was Cody James, born on the 17th of September 2007. And he was, an angel brought him to me, and I just wanted to be with my little ones. And so I was laying in between their beds on the floor while they were asleep in the middle of the night, sobbing. And my baby was placed in my arms, and I just slept with him the whole night. And one of the most healing experiences I've had, even though it's incredibly woo-woo, and I wasn't even into that sort of stuff back then.
Yeah.
And the psychiatrist that came to my house said, we strongly suggest that you heal from this before you have another child. And it felt wrong. It felt wrong to me. And I thought, no, I actually, there's another baby, and they need to come through.
Yeah.
And so they'd given me a rubella injection. Welcome to my life, Sam. They'd given me a rubella injection, so they said that I couldn't get pregnant for 12 weeks. And 12 weeks to the day. 12 weeks to the day. I don't even know how I got pregnant with my little Ella Grace, and she is, I know why I was meant to have her. She is just such a delight. Just they say that your rainbow baby comes through with twice of everything. Twice the sass, twice the funny, twice the naughty, twice the amazing, twice the smart. Everything about her is that. And I'm so grateful. And look, the healing journey continues, even though I've got all of these skills now to, release, and it doesn't normally affect me. And in fact, he's become quite a gift to me. I am who I am as a result of that. And I wouldn't actually have it another way now. Recently, my friend and I ran a retreat, and at the end, one of the participants husbands came to pick them up, and my son actually died as a direct result of Down syndrome. And you don't really see a lot of trisomy 21. And so you don't actually see a lot of Downs babies. So there hasn't been a lot of opportunities for me to heal in that way. And so this lady's husband and 2 little boys came up, and she had this gorgeous little Downs baby. And I just saw him and he saw me, and I don't know what it was. Luckily, I'd been running sessions for these guys for 3 days, so we had a really deep rapport. And I just went up and I put my arms out, and this gorgeous little boy cuddled up into me. And I can tell you that is the most healing thing that has happened in my journey. I mean, time and lots of healing techniques all helped, but really that getting to, it was like I got to hug my child. It was beautiful. And after the retreat, I actually wrote to her and told her how profound that was for me, which was lovely. So now I'm in a point, you know, it's been quite some time, and he actually happened for me as a result of me having him. I am who I am, and I'm out there helping people. So, yeah, thank you for listening.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. So much for sharing. And our next guest, she's feeling like it's probably a little bit harder for her, because there's a different way of losing a baby as well. And I never thought that I was going to choose to do that. I never thought that I was going to choose to have an abortion. So when you get a little bit older, things change a little bit. And when you get a little bit more spiritual, when you get a little bit more aligned with all of the things in your world, sometimes it's more than just getting pregnant and having a baby. So I have had 2 abortions. And the beautiful Nebula is going to also share about it. I'm going to take you off mute, Neb, or you're off mute. So Neb also was there for me as a sounding board. So very woo-woo. Neb and I have been mother and daughter and all sorts in other lives. So we've done lots of journeys together. And
I cannot reach it. I was too cushions to reach it, but I still keep.
Okay, and my rainbow baby wants to be involved as well. Do you want to come say hello? Give me 5 more minutes. Okay. So, yes, I know what you mean about more sass. Definitely, the rainbow babies definitely have more sass. And it's funny because my nickname used to be Sassy. So we've got double sass around here. So when you have an abortion, you go to a clinic. It was a very eye-opening thing for me to go through, because I was rather judgy in regards to it. And why would somebody want to do that? This is the miracle of life. And going through the actual process, even going in for the consulting process as well, I could see a multitude of people who were from all walks of life. There was older women, there was younger women, there was women of, all different ethnicities. And there's 2 ways that you can have an abortion. They can give you a pill, which will bring on a miscarriage. Probably not the best choice. And my choice was a surgical. Neb has shared with me that she chose the pill option because she didn't know any better. And unfortunately, these things aren't talked about. So there's poor girls out there going, oh, yeah, I can just take a pill and it's just going to disappear. Neb, do you want to come off mute? It's not just that easy, is it, darling?
No, not at all. Well, I guess I'll start with why I made my decision, because I feel like that's maybe an important part of my story.
Yeah.
Like I never really wanted to actually have children, out of some background fear that I would turn out to be like my mother's and treat my children the way that my mother's treated me, which is a whole other story. But my sister at the time had a 4 or 5 year old, 3, 4 or 5 year old son. And she was a drug addict going through court cases, and my parents were spending so much money trying to help her. And I had nothing, and I was dating my ex-husband at the time. And we'd known each other since high school, but we just, I don't know, it was really unexpected because he said he couldn't have children from the teenager. And I had been on the pill since I was 16. And it was 1 month when I was 22 that I came off of the pill, and I thought, well, it's okay because I didn't have money to buy the next one. And I thought, well, he can't have children, so maybe I can just wait a month and it'll be fine. And literally would have been like after that first period after my coming off the pill that I would have gotten pregnant. And funny enough that we're doing this talk today, because 6 years ago today was actually when I probably conceived the baby, or around this time, because about 4 or 5 weeks later is when I actually went through the abortion process. But I mean, within those 4 or 5 weeks, I noticed that my body had changed. There was like something, it was just this feeling of me of like, oh, something's really different. Like the way that I feel, the way that I look, the way that my body's acting, the way that I'm acting is a bit different. And I couldn't really put my finger on it. And then my period didn't come. And I was like, well, why is it not coming? Is it because I was on the pill and now I'm not? And so I just had this hunch, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go get a pregnancy test. So I went and got one, and I did it at home before I went to my ex's house. And it came with like one solid line and one very faint line. And I was like, oh, well, how do I know? So I went to his house and panicked a little bit, and we both cried a little bit. And then I said, well, can we just go get some more? And so we went and bought probably about 10. I peed in a cup, put all 10 in. All 10s, it had like one solid, one faded. And I was like, oh. And they were like, 2 solid line means pregnant, so we maybe not, you know. And then we decided to go to the doctor and get a blood test. And then on the blood test, it showed that I was pregnant. And then they said to me that I have the option of, like in South Africa when I was doing it, the clinics that I went to, the doctor's offices, they didn't allow you to have an abortion there. So my ex managed to find a private doctor who worked out of her house. And like during this time, we had discussed it a lot. We were thinking about it, and we were like, well, you know, we have our parents, and like, I don't want to lean on our parents, but it's like also, I didn't really want kids, but now that there's possibilities here, it's like, and my nephew is just so amazing for me to look after, that I felt like, oh, I really actually do want to have a child, but I feel like I'm not in the place psychologically, emotionally, and physically and financially to be able to actually give someone a good life. I feel like I would just be doing the same thing that my birth mother, because I was adopted, like she was absolutely poor and had no money, and like I was almost a baby because of it. So there was that feeling in me of like, can I actually support someone? Like, it's not fair to just bring someone into the world because I'm afraid of, you know, what other people might think. It was like, if I bring this person into the world, there's a real chance that I could actually just do the same damage, you know. And I mean, that was like a big trust in myself. But we ended up going to the clinic, and we kind of made the decision that like, okay, well, maybe one day we'll do it. Like, now that we know we can get pregnant, it's like, okay, let's let's actually stay together and let's actually plan to one day do this again. And when I was there at the clinic, it was really hard. Like, she started telling me about the process that I was going to go through, and I just started to break down a lot and feeling really, really sad. And it was the thing of, like, I took a pill with her at the clinic, and then she said 24 hours later to the T, you have to take 4 tablets and put them up your vagina, which was like, oh, that seems like, she's like, and then it would just be like, you'll bleed for 2 weeks and that will be it. It was pretty fucking brutal, probably the most brutal experience I've been through in my life, and I've been through some pretty shit experiences. It was like, I think about half an hour or an hour into taking those 4 tablets, I started, excuse my language, but I basically started to shit and puke myself non-stop for about 2 to 3 hours. And it was awful. Like, I didn't understand, like, I didn't really get a lot of information on what was going to happen. I just was basically told, oh, you'll just bleed for 2 weeks. And
yeah,
like,
they don't give any of that information.
No. And they don't, like, the way that she made it sound was also like, oh, well, it's just the size of a bean or something, so it doesn't matter. The way that they made it seem was just like, oh, it just doesn't matter. And that's how I went into it, of like, that just doesn't matter. I can do a period and be done with it. But it was really excruciating, and like, I was in a lot of pain, and there was a lot of grief around it that I wasn't able to feel, and I couldn't tell my family. So that was another thing. I didn't actually tell my family that I was pregnant, because I knew that if I told them, they would try and make me have the baby, and it was just like, there's no good environment here for this to happen. And yeah, that was really, like, I would say, like, the start of my spiritual awakening, because it was like, fuck, I actually do want to be a mom. I actually do want to care for someone. And it's not because it was really coming from that place of like, I can't afford to actually make someone thrive in this life. And I feel like that's a huge thing for women, is like many women, it's not just a decision because it's like, oh, I got pregnant and I'll just get rid of it. It's like, no, that's a fucking hard thing to go through. Just physically alone is really, it's like torture to yourself. And it just, it was, I made that decision from myself as well, that I was like, if I ever got pregnant again, I'm not going to go, just no matter where I'm at in my situation, it was like, I cannot actually physically go through that again. And that really shifted a lot of things. But it was, it's fucking traumatic. And I feel like I'm still, to this day, like, everything in my spiritual journey has been about mothers and connecting to the mother and healing the mother wound, and seeing my own birth story play out in this story. And I mean, I'm eternally grateful for it, because I'm here and I'm now feeling like a better person. I feel like I could be a way better mum than what I thought I could be before. And that's like that's literally my motivation for life now, is like, I want to be a better person for my children. I want to show up for myself so that I can show up for them. And I never had that, that wasn't there. And I can see, if I went through that, I would have been stuck in a country I didn't want to be. I would have been stuck with a person that probably wasn't very right for me anyway. And I would have been struggling and just sharing all of the shit that was handed down to me to them. And like, it's a tough decision, but it changed my life for the better. And I know that, like, when you say golden baby, it's like every time I've connected to souls, so I've done lots of shamanic journeys, and you go into the womb and you connect to souls that want to come through. And I always have souls that want to come through and they call themselves the golden babies. And it never made sense until you said it today. And I was like, oh, no shit. Okay, golden babies. Right. That's a real thing. So that's my experience with it. I feel like I'm still recovering in some ways, and other ways. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. So this is Lisabella and this is my golden baby. Hello, my darling.
Hello, baby.
And Ayla has been doing her rainbow makeup. Do you want to come in? No, she's 5 and she doesn't want to be on screen anymore. Thanks for sharing, Nam. It's that subject that people don't want to talk about, though it's really needed because, there's so much stigma behind it. And no one goes into that. Well, I hope most people don't really go into that lightly and, use it as just a form of conception, contraception. And then we have Karen. So Karen has a different story altogether. And I'll let Karen tell her story because it's a very big story to tell. And I would not do it very much justice. And she has Ailey in the background. So we're just going with this is where mamas and this is the way that we roll right now on Love Talk.
This is my sunshine baby, or my miracle baby, they call her. So she was a twin, identical girls. And I just looked up the calendar, and 2 years and 1 day ago, we lost 2 years and a week ago, we lost her sister, Annie, her twin, halfway through the pregnancy. They were identical girls. So that's kind of how that is. I'll get to how we got to where we are. So I was always going to be a mum. That's just what I was going to do. I was going to finish high school, go to uni, get my degree, get married, and first baby by 27. Well, at 19, that almost completely went out the door. I ended up with very severe endometriosis, surgeries to try and fix it, what was going on. And it was kind of after the first surgery, it was kind of once that opened me up, everything kind of exploded. And it ended up that I had another disease called adenomyosis, which is it grows into the muscle of your uterus, so it takes on a blood supply like a child. So it actually grows independently. And so at just after my 21st birthday, I had a hysterectomy. So all my plans of being a mum completely out the door. I had a uterus gone, ovaries gone, fallopian tubes gone. I was very lucky at the time that my doctor, he had been doing some reading, some research, and he rang me one night, and I remember it was a Friday night at about 7:30, 7:45.
Yeah.
And he said, I've been doing this reading and there's some research that says we might be able to freeze parts of your ovarian tissue to maybe one day put it back in and see what can happen. So went ahead, did the surgery, best thing I did. It went from me really getting up in the morning, going to work, to pay for my meds, to be not in pain, pay for the doctors, to go to uni. I was going to uni at the time while I worked full time. It was just it just kind of went like this. And it was either, for me, we're Catholic, I'm Catholic, and not necessarily practicing Catholic, but for me, I tend to find you fall back on the beliefs that you've grown up with. And my granddad, I would say, is holier than the Pope, and always was. He was at church every day and twice on Saturdays or twice on Sundays. And I rang him and I said, this is what we're doing. And he said, look, Karen, God didn't put you here to let you suffer. And he didn't let these people have the education and the skills that they've got to not be useful to you. So what is the issue? And for me, I was like, well, it says that, mind you, I'd been on the pill since 16, right? So it was like, being Catholic, no contraception, da-da-da-da-da. Now I can hear the crazy, the difference between it. But he was like, you don't have a choice. And he was my kind of, I guess, my catalyst to doing it. So it was either that or drive my car into a tree at the end of my mum and dad's street. I was that sick. So anyway, fast forward through and I got married, and I always let any person that I dated, I always let them know I could not have children. No uterus, no ovaries, no fallopian tubes, no children. And my ex-husband, he was good with that. But I did find that I probably drew people to me that weren't good for me, that couldn't give me what I needed or could just accept whatever it was that I couldn't give them. So I accepted a lot less for a lot of things. And I started looking into surrogacy overseas and went back to see my doctor and had a chat about had the science come through yet. So hysterectomy was 97, 2007, 2008. I went back, I said, look, where are we at with this? Can you put the tissue in and we'll see what happens? And at the time they weren't prepared to, the ethics committee at one of the IVF clinics weren't prepared to put it through because it hadn't been done yet. So they weren't really sure. Fast forward then another couple of years that my gynecologist retired, sent me through to somebody else at a different clinic who they had started looking at putting ovarian tissue back in. So I went to see Kate and had a chat to her, and my marriage broke down around about this time. And she said, look, we can try. We're happy to try. You've got 16 bits of tissue. We're happy to give it a go. We'll see what happens. So I went in and had the first surgery, and within 4 weeks, the tissue had started to take its own blood supply, brought my hormone levels back up to a normal person, like with the fully functioning ovaries and so on and so forth. So I wasn't ready at the time to go through IVF or any of those sorts of things. So we just monitored my bloods to see. We knew the tissue would die. We just didn't know how long it would take. So it took about 19 months, 20 months. And then I met somebody else and decided, right, this was the time. This is what we were going to do. It was going to work. It was going to be perfect. We were going to get married. So I had more tissue put back in and did 16 rounds of IVF in 15 months. It's a crazy town, complete crazy town. But I got 9 eggs and we made 5 embryos. So during that time, I was also looking at surrogacy, obviously, because I couldn't carry. And the surrogacy community in Australia is quite small. It's difficult. And I joined the board of Surrogacy Australia, Families Through Surrogacy, became a really big advocate for it, and that relationship collapsed during that process, which had nothing to do with babies, And I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So the tissue had been taken out in 97. It was 17 years till they put the first tissue back in, 19 years to the second tissue, 20 years to the third tissue. And I was struggling to find a surrogate here in Australia, and to go overseas is really expensive. And I'd given myself a deadline. We had to be pregnant by 45 or baby by 45. That was it. And then after that, I had to be okay with my situation. And it's really hard to say. I think I would be. I do think I would be, because I would have given it everything that I could have to do it. My uncle passed away back in, I think, 2017, 2018. And he only had myself and my sister as nieces, and only one brother, my dad. So we came into some money, an inheritance. And at that time, I happened to be talking to an old friend from the US who had started a surrogacy agency. So it was kind of like everything kind of fell into place. And she said, look, if you want to do it. I said, yep, I'm ready. Let's go. I've got the money now. Let's go. Have you got anybody kind of, on your books that you think would work? And she's like, no, not yet. So we kind of went ahead, and then one day she sent me this profile, and it was my surrogate, Erin. And as soon as I just saw their picture, they do like a picture and a letter. And as soon as I saw the picture, didn't even have to read it. I was like, that's her, goosebumps, everything was like, that's her. And she had very much the same response. So I sent her a little message and said, look, it's really lovely to meet you. It's kind of a little bit like online dating, like it's weird, kind of. And I happened to be attending a training that weekend. I was doing MBIT, which is M-braining, which is a NLP, hypnosis type thing. And, whenever we do training, they say, bring something real, like work on something that's real. And I kind of went, okay, is this the right person for me? My heart said yes, my head said yes, but was I just jumping because somebody was offering to do this for me? And anyway, but I think by the Sunday, that was the Saturday morning, by the Sunday night, we decided to work together, and that was fine. So in the interim, I had actually adopted embryos in the US. So my beautiful girls are donor embryo because my ex wouldn't sign over our embryos here. So they're still here in Melbourne IVF, just sitting there somewhere. But so we had Ailey, and I have to say the relationship that I created with this family was more than, it was just more than, it was everything that you would ever possibly want it to be, and then some. And being involved in the community for such a long time, I'd seen a lot of things go really, really wrong. So so Erin went down to, Erin's in, where does she live? Can't even think now where she lives. Oregon, is in Oregon. And I chose to use a clinic in Las Vegas because I knew the doctors personally and I trusted them, and I knew that they would care for Erin as if they were caring for me. And she went down and we had the embryo transferred, and obviously, so I went through all of the IVF stuff with the injections and all of that kind of thing. And the good thing about that was that I was able to support her through her, because she had to do exactly the same thing. So anyway, fast forward through, the pregnancy started brilliant, and we got this message. I got this message saying, I've got something to tell you. And she just sent me a photo, and I'm like, that looks like two babies in there. What the hell am I going to do with two babies as a single mum? Like, it was just crazy. And anyway, everything went perfect, but we could never tell. We knew they were in the same sac. We could never tell whether they had the same placenta, though. So she went on the 14th of August to see the high-risk specialist, so that we could make sure that we cared for for the girls correctly. And their heartbeats were perfect. Their measurements were great. They were within a day of each other, so they were really perfect. Everything was good, but they still couldn't quite tell whether they had two placentas. They couldn't tell what was going on. So that was fine. So she drove back and she saw her grandparents, and she was at her grandparents, and I got a message from her sister saying, we've had to take her into the hospital. Something's not quite right. So that was fine. So I got videos in the hospital of that. It was the first real live videos I'd had of the girls, and the girls, I wish I could show you a picture, but the girls were kind of like face to face. It was like they were sitting, and it was like they were in conference, like they were having this. It was the funniest thing to watch, and it was like Erin and I just kind of went, they look like they're conspiring, like they look like there's this thing going on. And 2 days later, she had a normal appointment, and Annie, I'd named the girls, Annie and Ailey. Annie passed while Erin was having the ultrasound. So that was it was a really hard phone call for Erin and Brandon to have to make, to tell me, because I couldn't do anything for her. Like, it was really hard to do anything for her. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning and I was supposed to be teaching on that Saturday. So I'd cancel everything, and I rang my sister and she said, what do you want me to do? And I knew she had a whole lot of things to do. She's right, you ring Mum, I've got this, I'll meet you at Mum's in an hour. So we went, and the whole day it was just me and Erin and my mum and my sister, and we just videoed pretty much just all day to kind of give the support that it's a really hard thing to explain, but just being together, even on video, was good. It was right. It felt good. And my parents had been overseas in Ireland. My mum's, we're Irish, and Mum had bought 3 pendants with so 3 pendants, one for me, one for my sister, and one for Erin, and it was supposed to be for Christmas. And so Mum gave it to all 3 of us, gave us ours on that day. So that's kind of like our thing. And we spent a lot of time talking and just the whole way through, and I'm really glad of the relationship that we actually have, because it meant that we had open and honest communication. Now, you know, I know that it was Erin that lost the babies. The problem was that because they shared a sac, and because they were separate placenta, but because they shared a sac, Erin had to carry Annie for the entire pregnancy. So she carried both girls for the entire pregnancy. And for Erin, there was a lot of grief around. I've already had 5 babies and I did 5 pregnancies really easily. How come I couldn't protect this one? How come I couldn't do this? How come? And so it's been, Ailey's 18 months now. So it's still been a thing, and Erin's we're all still kind of coming to terms with what it is. But we had a very definite plan of what we wanted the birth to look like. And not a plan. The birth plan was safe baby, safe Erin. That was my birth plan. That was our birth plan. But the plan around dealing with the demised twin, dealing with Annie, and we wanted to see. It was really important for us to see. It was really important for us to not have any conversation with the hospital staff during or after the birth. So when we checked in, Ailey ended up being growth restricted. So she was born 38 and 5 days, I think, so to term, but she was only 2 kilos, so 5.02 pounds. So we went in a couple of days early, and when I got to the hospital, I'd already made arrangements to speak to the nursing unit manager and the social workery person. Like, I'd made plans because we didn't want to have to deal with. And, I said, these are our wishes. Our doctor's aware of it. This is where we're at. But I would like to have a priest come after the birth to kind of bless the girls. And unfortunately, we ended up in an emergency cesarean situation, which meant that it didn't obviously go quite according to plan. Erin got quite sick, and but we had both myself and Erin's husband in the operating theatre because we'd had such a good relationship with our doctors that there was just no way she wasn't going to let both of us in there. And the good thing was that Erin needed both of us, because she kind of, when they took Ailey away, they kind of took her to look after her, and then Erin started kind of tanking. And I was looking at the neonatal nurses and doctors, and I'm like, have you got this? Is she okay? They're like, yeah, why? I'm like, because I have to be over there. I have to be with Erin. I have to make sure that she's okay. I have to look after her. You've got my baby. You know what you're doing. I know she's okay. Erin's not. I need to be there. And so that was, I guess, kind of our birth story. But the whole way through, we always knew that at the end, we were going to have to do something with the baby. And the hospital were great. They arranged to have Annie cremated for us, so I was able to bring her home, which was great. We had the priest come and didn't know him from bar of salt, and he came in and he did a blessing on Ailey. We had Annie in a little box. The nursing staff had gone out and bought this beautiful box and crocheted a little hat and put this beautiful poem together for Annie to go in, which was just amazing that these people would think to do those sorts of things for us. But unfortunately, because we got back, so Ailey was born on the 6th of February. We got back on the 26th of February. We went into lockdown 3 weeks later. And being in Melbourne, we went into a really big, strict lockdown. So I haven't really been able to do anything with Annie. So Annie's in my kitchen in a little box. And because I wanted to go, and I wanted to buy a particular type of rose so that we could buy the same one for America, so that Erin had exactly the same rose to kind of look at. I wish you could see the look my daughter's giving me at the moment.
It's probably similar to the ones that I'm getting from mine.
Oh, she's just looking at me as if to say, I know you're talking about me, and I know that, for me, I know that Annie's around quite a lot, and I know that when we were younger, when Ailey was younger, little baby, that I used to have to go into her bedroom and say, enough's enough. Come on, Annie, you need to let your sister sleep. You need to just let her sleep. Like, you've just got to let her go. So for me, it was, for Erin and I guess for me, it was a really different situation. I dealt with the grief of not being able to have a child because I made the decision to not, which was a very hard decision. Yeah. I'd then gone through the process to where I am to be pregnant with twins, and then to lose a healthy baby, a healthy baby. There's no rhyme. There was no rhyme or reason. I had somebody contact me, a medium contact me to say that it was a choice that the two girls made, that they knew that there was going to be problems, and it would either be lose one or lose everyone, being Annie, Ailey and Erin, which gives us some sense of kind of relief and kind of makes sense of the two girls. Yeah. Like they were in conference. It gives peace. It really does give us some peace. But I've got the most smart, funny nutcase of a little girl who brings me so much joy every single day. And I would say she saved me. Like, I was going through some stuff during the pregnancy, and she saved me completely. She has been the one thing, and anybody that knows me, and particularly my family, would say, my sister said to me the other day, you've done so incredibly well. Like, you seem happy and content, and you're doing such a good job. Like, you're doing such a good job. And Ailey knows her story. I was never good with lullabies. Yeah. So the lullabies I would send her to sleep with were her story. That she's got a family in America and how much they love her, and that she had a sister, and those things. And the other thing is we talk to Erin every week, every single
That's
week.
beautiful. Beautiful.
Video, so she knows. So that's kind of my story.
Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. That was a big story. And that's what I wanted to share with everyone out there, is that birth stories have so many different parts to them. And there is no right, there is no wrong. There's, sometimes there's choice and sometimes there's no choice as well. And I know that we're going a little bit over time, but that's all right. If everyone's right for just another five minutes. I think I've got 5 minutes from my girls. There's silence. I don't know what's happening right now. It's probably my makeup. There'll be makeup and glitter everywhere. Rainbow Baby Day, literally. So what, because there can be a lot of pain, but a lot of anguish, a lot of guilt, shame. I did something wrong. What would be, just quickly, what would be the thing that you would say that got you through? I know that for me, it's not just one thing. I've had to do a lot of clearing out of my womb space as well, because I just literally held a lot of shame there. A lot of shame, because I couldn't hold babies. And that, like one of my friends was like, oh yeah, but it's so nice. They just come and hang out. And she was trying to make me feel better. But it wasn't quite enough. But I do say that is our first brain as women. That's where we remember all of the things. It goes to that space there. So I've done a lot of womb work. I've done some beautiful ceremonies. I think Karen, you do the same one, the Rainbow Babies Hypno, which is amazing as well, to be able to tap in with those souls. And yeah, using mediums to bring through messages from the beautiful little souls. I know that I've got lots of little messages from, especially the last two, like my choices, that they were there to teach me lots of lessons about me, taking real responsibility for Mama, because Mama was not, she was talking the self-love talk. She just wasn't. It was everything for everybody else. And, I would have loved those babies, but I may have even taken my own life because it was making things. There was too much on me. I just didn't have enough support. I didn't feel like I had support. I didn't know where to find support. So, and I know that the last one, he's been with me a couple of times before and he's like, right, what are you doing? So I'll start with Karine. What would you say, just quickly?
Yeah, I guess it's not just one thing in particular, is it? It's just a series of things of I think it's just even just remembering and acknowledging, and also being comfortable to share rather than keeping it a secret.
Totally.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely hypnosis has made a big difference to be able to, just pinpoint, something in particular that you want to work on, to be able to heal, grieve, but not forget, to always remember, what they represent in your day-to-day life with the children that you have, with the people that are around you. It's not just one thing. It's a series of things, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Christy? You're on mute.
I was just trying to unmute Cherie. That's how connected and kind of in tune what I've been watching. So I guess for me, it's kind of something I've noticed listening to everybody while you were sharing your stories. I think for me, the thing that helped was seeing the bigger picture of the purpose of my experience. And that's something that's happened gradually over a 20-year period. I guess with me being as fragmented as I was as a younger person, I could only do very little bits at a time. There was only so much that I could accept and process and take in a healthy way, in a way where, like you said, Samantha-Jayne, I wasn't going to go and, jump off a cliff or, do something harmful to myself. But I think I have to say, since it's maybe in the last decade or so, the little girl who has told me that we have also spent, like many of you, spent lifetimes together before, she has actually been with me through grief that I've experienced and helped me in my processes and that kind of thing. So I think self-acceptance, even in the face of people that you expect to support you, like family and loved ones, that might not be able to accept your truth, accepting your truth for what it is, and allowing it was the big thing for me. And I guess knowing that, like, life is a continuum, like all our lives are a continuum. So, I guess just finding, for me personally, finding alternate ways to meet the need.
Yeah,
so
perfect.
At the moment I nanny, and
Nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful, thank you. And Sherry?
Christy, 4 kids over here. You come over here and share anytime.
I'll take you up on that.
Beautiful.
Oh, I haven't muted myself, sorry.
Oh, good, darling.
So I think that the biggest thing, 2 things, probably more knowing me, is what Cody showed me is that everything is survivable. So through any trauma that I have experienced since I lost him, I'm like, I've lost a child. What else have you got? Like, it gave me strength. I mean, it was horrid getting there, but he gave me such strength.
I got goosebumps just from that. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Well, it's certainly true, isn't it? And I think the other thing is not getting stuck in it. For me, for that 3 darkness, I was very stuck in it, and I gained a lot of significance from why I wasn't moving forward. I couldn't do this because I've had a baby sleeping. I couldn't do this, and so actually actively looking for things that were happening in my life as a result of him. So starting to significance for being me, for the contribution I was now giving to the world, to my children, as a result of him. And now I've just got nothing but love about the situation, and I'm actually really grateful it happened, which might be confronting for people, but wouldn't have it any way.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, some people get to that circle very, like, it may take them a long time, but once you do, it is a bit of a circle, and there are some processes that you do need to get to. And I am grateful for all of my little souls that have come and had a little party in the fun house. And like, I couldn't even speak about it before. I couldn't speak about anything before. And I did. There was so much shame and blame about it.
If I could say one more thing, sorry, Sam.
Oh, yes, my darling, yes.
That is the other thing as well, because it is quite a taboo subject. And so for that first 3 years of darkness, I actually was very reluctant to impact other people with the story of him, because you start to talk about it and all you want to do is talk about it. all you want to do is talk about this child, but it triggers other people. And it actually took me quite a while to realize that I'm going to talk about this kid because, okay, it might trigger you, but maybe you'll heal from that. So trusting that your journey is actually helping other people along the way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really powerful message because I think it was sort of a little bit of a, I'm just going to pull my big girl panties on and just go, oh yeah, I just had a miscarriage. Like that was my attitude about it. And then I would see everyone's face and they'd be like, are you all right? I'm like, yeah, just move on. Yeah, hurry up. Let's just not dwell in this. We're not gonna, at home I'll lose my shit, but right in front of everybody, I've got it all together. But yeah, to have open, honest conversations about it, that's really healing for everyone around. Yep.
I feel like it's not really one thing, but I guess like because I said it was like the start of my spiritual awakening, so to speak, that right after that I found the book The Celestine Prophecy, which was probably a spiritual awakening book for many people. And I had no idea about spirit or any other connection outside of this physical realm. And also in South Africa, being introduced to psychedelics, which also just dove me straight into the womb every time. And then also finding what's called the Body Code by Dr. Bradley Nelson. And the moment I found this, I just got this message of like, you need to do this every day, all day for your children. And that has just stuck with me for years of feeling like it wasn't like it was meant to happen to wake me up, that I was never actually meant to have a baby. It was like this was just there to steer my life in the direction it was meant to go. And so that feeling and having and carrying that with me of like this was meant to happen in exactly as it happened helped me to accept it a lot easier, and created a drive for me to want to dive deeper into it. And it's like still to this, I mean, like I said, like this week is so synchronistic that we're talking about it, and I still have so much knowledge and wisdom that's coming through from that experience, and it just goes like deeper and deeper, layer by layer, and I keep learning more and more about myself and my own story and my own patterns. That I feel like it's more of a spirit guide that came through than a baby, and and like they're guiding me through life to be a better person and a better mother. So that has been that's been like what's helped me to heal and face kind of like the guilt and the shame of what I did, and and lots and lots of womb work with lots of women in circle.
And it's really interesting, especially with, I'm gonna just keep saying the abortion word because it's the word that has the weight in it, that women have been having abortions for a very long time. It may not have been in a clinical setting. There was herbs that they would use. There was lots of different ways that they would go, oh shit, I don't want to, oh geez, that was my Mr. from another Mrs. and I'm going to get in trouble, or the king's wench, and that wasn't, that was my lover, like my real husband's, not the king's, and whatever was going on. So it's really interesting that there's such a big thing with that. 1 second, Christy. I'll just go to Corinne. Just hold that thought. Karen, do you have one thought into how to make things better?
I started doing the work, the training before we got pregnant with Bailey and Annie. So I feel that for me really helped because I had work, and I think acceptance that there was a reason. I don't have to know what the reason was, but there was a reason. And I think, again, talking about it like a lot, I'm very proud of my journey. the good bits, the bad bits, the ugly bits, and if I can help through it. But it did give me my purpose in working in fertility and reproductive health in the hypnosis coaching space. So it's definitely given me my purpose. And I think to accept, you don't have to know why. Things happen for a reason, and I would speak for Erin too, and I think she would say the same, a very similar thing, to accept that God, Spirit, has had a purpose, but to talk, and I talk and talk and talk and talk and talk about it. That's what I would say.
Beautiful. Thank you, my darling. Christy, you're on mute. Christy loves to talk.
She does. You wouldn't think that I was like shy as a child and painfully shy, but now I'm just like, oh, I have this, I have to say it quick, me. So I just, when Nebula's speaking, but I don't think it's specifically just a nebula, but it comes to mind as the earth is, what's the word? As our energies are changing and humanity's, we're evolving at the moment as a collective. And I think cyclical behavior is coming to an end. So generational healing is so pertinent at the moment. And I just really instinctively feel like that's a big aspect of your story, Nebula, and your experience at the moment. So I just, I have to say, energetically, when you were talking, I've never felt the experience I had of a very jarring and sudden confronting energy associated with what you were speaking about. And I just feel like maybe that connection is kind of relevant there. And I wish I just had more words. I love it when I just get, an impression of stuff and Spirit are like, say this. And I'm like, yeah, okay, great.
Thank you. I would love to thank each and every one of you out there. And for anyone sitting at home, because I've been sitting with this for a little bit of time now, and it just keeps coming up. You've got to put a package together. And it came through very strong the other day. And each one of these women have their beautiful gifts. But my package, I'm going to pop it in the comments for everyone. It's called Eternal Moments. Because those moments that you do have with those little souls that come into your life for whatever the reason are eternal, because you get to learn from them eternally in this life and the next. Yes, so I honor each and every single one of you who have been brave enough to share your beautiful stories with me. Thank you for supporting me, because I don't really tell my story out loud and live very often, because I still have a bit of the let's just get on with life. So it was a big thing for me to speak of it as well. Have a beautiful day today, all of you beautiful women. Here comes my...
When I was putting your hand here on my bed, she heard it, and it hurt right here.
Okay,
Come with me.
I will come with you right now. On that note, I am being called in by my children. Thank you. If you want to find any of these beautiful women, they all have their beautiful gifts that they share with the world in different aspects of what they have been through and their learnt knowledge and their lived knowledge. So I honor each and every one of you. Thank you very much for joining us here for Love Talk. 1.5 hours we have talked about this beautiful rainbow babies. Thank you very much.